Okay, let's go, I guess. I guess I'm live. As always, there's some delay here. So, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so let's see what's going on. If you guys can actually see me, hear me. Jonathan says hi. Okay, so you can actually see and hear me. The question is though, here we go. Okay. So yeah, the official live stream is gonna start in what 5 minutes, right? But as always, I'm a little bit earlier to figure out everything because literally the worst part of streaming is the tech behind it, right? It never works. Almost always it fails. So I'm trying to figure out if that works. Okay. Clicking on my LinkedIn to see if everything is good. Hello. Abhishek, hello. Metal, hello. Some LinkedIn users that I have no idea what's the name. Hello as well. Okay. Okay, good. So I have one ask for you guys. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, this time it doesn't, fortunately. No, it works. It works. It works well. Oh, nice. This is way better. So I have one ask, guys. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, I would really appreciate if you watch it on YouTube instead. There's not so much difference between those experiences for you personally, but for me, YouTube kind of loves when people watch the what's that? Streaming integrations, yes. So YouTube kind of likes when you watch live streams. YouTube likes it, and I'm trying right now to kind of get going this whole YouTube thing so I can create more cool explanations. So as Sai is writing that my explanations are great, I'm trying to have even more greater explanations for you. I'm trying to teach you live right now for free, absolutely right. I'm trying to produce different videos on YouTube, and YouTube's loves when you just watch it on YouTube. So LinkedIn doesn't really care. So for me personally, I would really appreciate if you could go to YouTube and then maybe and watch it on YouTube, right? So that kind of adds the watching hours for the YouTube, and YouTube says, "Wow, this is really cool," and YouTube really loves that. So I would really appreciate that. It would be very nice from you guys if you do that. And let's see. So for the next 3 minutes, I'm going to be still checking stuff, and then we're going to officially start. Gonna officially start all of that. Okay. For some reason, my LinkedIn event doesn't load, but I just assume you can all see it everywhere. Is it still live? Huh. Okay, still works. For some reason, I stopped seeing any comments. Let's see what's going on. Sai, welcome. Okay, let's try it like this. So I can see that you're actually joined it because I have some issues with seeing that. Can you write where you're joining from? What's the country, the city? If you're from a big country like US, then write what's the city you're from. And this way I can see your comments and I can see that you're here. Yes, on LinkedIn, it's not at all opening. Yes, exactly. This is what I see as well. Like, it's so strange. I really don't think it's opening on LinkedIn. Which would be not great because there's so many people on LinkedIn. Would love to see it. Okay. Anyone from LinkedIn? So anyone on LinkedIn who can tell me if the stream is working on LinkedIn? My man Igor, yes, that's me. I am the man. George Palmer, welcome, welcome, welcome. How is it going with your Apex? How are the improvements from the last cohort you took? South Africa, nice. This is, I tell you, LinkedIn is so bad for streaming. It is, okay, not only for streaming, like LinkedIn in general is so technically, I don't know. Like, I think they're just wipe coding everything there. Like, they've been wipe coding stuff for the last like 2 years. I'm definitely not gonna restart stream. Oh, Sai says it's working, and someone says not working. George says I can see it in LinkedIn as well. Okay, interesting, interesting. I think I know the reason. I think I know the reason. Okay. Not working. So for some people it's working, for some people it doesn't. That's frustrating. But I think I know the reason. The reason is that I set way too way too good for quality. It's way too good of a quality, and that's why LinkedIn is like, nah, I'm not gonna be displaying it. Too much streaming quality. Which is pity, you know? Like I think that we are missing so much on this like whole live streaming in Salesforce ecosystem. I really wish more people would do that because this is a unique opportunity for me personally to like speak with you guys, even if you don't take my cohorts. Okay. Because I usually teach only inside of the cohorts, but I think it's for the first time since I started doing this whole teaching thing that I'm going to be teaching actually on the stream. Like I'm going to be actually teaching Apex on stream. I don't remember that I did it that much. Definitely in this year, that's going to be for the first time. Okay, so if you're watching here, this is a very good experience. This is very good opportunity to actually go and ask me your questions and kind of steer the explanations into the parts of Apex that is relevant for you, right? So what I want from you is that if you have at any point, if you have any questions, right? Let's get started. So if you have a question, right? Then what you do, you write it in the chat. In the chat. That's the rule, okay? So if any question comes to your mind, even if it's not really related to what we are doing right now at the moment, then still write it all in the chat, okay? So because that's going to help me to steer the conversation into the right direction. So let's see. I restarted my LinkedIn. This is going to be my last attempt to kickstart the streaming on LinkedIn. And if it doesn't really work, then that's just, yeah, still doesn't work for me. Well, whatever. Whatever. Okay, whatever that is, write in the chat if you have ever written at least one integration, okay? So write plus in the chat if you guys have done some integrations, okay? So if you have done any integrations, then write plus. That would be interesting for me to see who have done some integrations, who haven't, so I can a little bit judge what's better for you, okay? In general, Christopher says plus plus, so you've done a lot of integrations, I assume. So I wanna, while you're writing those pluses in the chat, Anseit Code says plus. Okay, good. So I wanna tell you something. So this was me in 2020, 21, something around this 2021. I said just small code. Okay. Okay, someone from LinkedIn. I actually see people from LinkedIn. I have no idea. Okay. Okay, so me in 2021, I was frustrated. I was a junior developer. And my boss came to me and he said, "Hey, Igor, here's your like an awesome ticket. This is your task. And the task says you have estimated for 8 hours. Okay, here's the 8 hours. Can you do that? Can you do this task?" And I said, of course, what would I say? Being a junior, you're like, yes, I can do that. But the thing is that I had no idea what are integrations. I said yes, and then I was like, I was like this guy. I was like, oh my god, what do I do? How do I test it? How do I test it? How do I write it? How do I write it? What the hell are those HTTP things? What are those all API things? I had absolutely no idea. I was so frustrated that at the end, all of this 8 hours task, it took me literally 3 weeks. No, no kidding. Like this literally took me 3 weeks to solve a task that was estimated for like 8 hours. I was so scared of those integrations because the thing about integrations is that you cannot just be inside of Salesforce, right? So this is Salesforce. And if you're a good admin, if you're a good developer, right, you know Salesforce so well that you can do most things on Salesforce. Or if you cannot do something on Salesforce, you know that you're going to figure it out. You know that you're going to kind of research stuff and you will find your way to accomplish this. Or you will be able to say, you know what, it's not possible, right? So inside of Salesforce, you usually know a lot of things or you feel comfortable. But the problem with integrations is that success in the integration, basically, in the integration project, not only depends on your skills in Salesforce, it also depends on the skills outside of Salesforce. And here, the server, right? This is another server. So it depends also on the stuff outside of Salesforce. And this is what's so frustrating. That's what's hard about integrations, in my opinion. Okay. So first of all, let me ban. Igor, is this the same course that you posted a few weeks back on YouTube? Kind of. Okay, so it's similar, right? So we're gonna be covering the same concepts, right? So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go from zero, right? So if someone here has absolutely no idea about integrations, and then we're gonna go and I'm gonna show you how to make the first Apex request, right? The difference though is that one was recorded, so I just recorded myself and then I posted kind of in the void. But here, this one, I want to do it more interactive. So I want to get your questions. I want to kind of answer your questions. I want to kind of see what are the parts that you don't like, what are the parts that you don't know, what are the parts that I need to go and explain a little bit more. So maybe at the end, we're going to end up discussing different things, okay? So it would be nice if right now you could write what are the integration things that you actually want to know, right? Maybe something that was outside of that course that I created, um, anything that bothers you about integrations that you want to cover, and we can cover it today. So it's supposed to be like just live teaching, you know. But before I do that, I'm gonna ban this annoying Evany. I have no idea. Yeah, Evany. Okay, let me ban. I'm gonna exercise my power here. I'm gonna exercise my power. How do I ban you? Evany. Ban user. Evany, here you go. Here we go. Ha! Take this, Evany. Okay, so Irish says auth 2. The only thing that I don't want to discuss is actually, or I don't want to discuss too much, is authentications problem. Evany gone. Evany, sorry. I don't think you're here for integrations. Okay. So, yeah, so please write right now in the chat, please write what do you want to cover? Because I want to know what are the integration things that are kind of hard for you. And of course, what we're going to do is that we're going to go from zero to writing the first Apex request, and then we're going to steer it depending where you want to see it. Okay. So back to me. This was me, right? And I struggled so much. I spent 3 weeks doing all of this. And at the end, I did solve the task. And I kind of realized that this is very important. After I solved this task, like my senior, he was like, so how was it? And I said, it was nice. I love integrations. Integrations are awesome. which was not really not really correct from my side. But my senior said that I have to learn integrations because he saw how much I struggled with those integrations. And he said, either you learn integrations and you get really good at integrations, or you can forget about becoming a senior developer or even a middle developer. Okay, so there's not a single senior developer or a technical architect in Salesforce that cannot do integrations. Okay, so if you have no idea about integrations, or you feel like it's not your strength, you absolutely need to work on it. Okay, integrations are very important. Salesforce is never just like some kind of island surrounded by water around it, right? Right, and you only work with the Salesforce itself. It's never like this. Okay, Salesforce is part of a business, and the businesses, they have accounting, they have bookkeeping, they have websites and all of this. And for all of that, you need to be able to do the integrations. You need to be able to take Salesforce and integrate it inside of the business. So you absolutely, if you want to progress in your Salesforce career, you absolutely have to learn integrations. Okay, absolutely have to do it. Eric says, I would like to learn where custom integrations live on the back end. Okay, we can cover it today. Also, I have a really good mug. Like it was a birthday gift from my parents, and it's really good. It's like a Ukrainian symbol. I'm really proud of this mug. Using it for water. Okay, I think we can get started with those integrations things. So basically, what are we going to be solving today? We're going to be solving the same cases I had in that course, right? So this is John. Okay. This is John. Thank you for the birthday. Yeah, and thank you guys. Thank you so much for everyone who said happy birthday for me on LinkedIn. It was like just a huge wall of happy birthday. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It literally made my day. So we have Salesforce, right? And we have John. And now John want to buy a course from us. So the course will usually be delivered as some kind of website, right? It would be somewhere else. Like, for example, I have a course called Learn Apex, right? learnapex.com. It would be somewhere else, right? This course is not in Salesforce. Even worse, to pay for the course, John cannot just go and pay directly in Salesforce. Or John also cannot just go and pay directly on Learn Apex. What we need to do is that we need to have a server, some payment system, right? Payment system. What kind of payment systems do you know, guys? Write in the chat. What are the payment systems you know? Payment system. Okay. So this is a payment system. So actually, John need to get the link from the payment system. Okay. And this is how the whole payment works, right? John is going to pay for the course in this payment system. So the unsigned code says Razorpay or Stripe. Interesting. I've never heard about Razorpay. So some of them that people know, Stripe, as you said correctly. Stripe, PayPal, correct? PayPal is a good one. It used to suck a little bit in integrations, but now it's actually pretty good. Okay, so if you want to make integrations with some payment systems, Stripe, PayPal is not that bad. Okay, so we have Stripe, we have PayPal, we have Razorpay, which is interesting. I never heard, but you say Razorpay. Then there's Lemon Squeezy. Funny name. Squeezy. I'm not really sure how to spell it correctly. Lemon Squeezy. And someone says UPI. Okay, so you can see that there are like a lot of different payment systems that can be there. LowPay. Never heard about LowPay. I'm gonna still write it LowPay. Okay. It's Indian. Okay. Never heard about that. So we have different payment systems, right? They all used to process the payments. So their whole business is basically working with the cards. Like, for example, Stripe, it takes like what, 2-3% of all transactions. I'm using Stripe. So it takes like 2-3% of all transactions, right? So this is how they make money. So it makes sense for those payment systems to also offer an API, right? I'm going to explain what is an API, but in general, they just work as a payment systems, right? So they want to be able to kind of offer that you can pay there in many, many different ways. The more ways you can use this payment system, the better for the payment system, right? Because they can just collect more payments in this case. So one of the, I think my favorite one is a Stripe. So I'm going to go to Stripe. I'm going to show you. Stripe.com, right? You can see that they immediately say that financial structure to grow your revenue, whatever that means. Many different companies using them. So it's a very well-known, it's a very huge business. And pricing, they're going to probably show you how much they, so this is how much they, 1.5 to 2.5, depending on, so that's what they charge, right? So a good thing is like you don't need to pay in advance. They just charge from how much you make. Now, here with the Stripe, we have a couple of things. So Stripe, we have Stripe API. Okay, we're going to go to this. Just going to open it. I'm going to be using Stripe in all these examples because Stripe is actually the most well-known and the best suitable for developers. So if you want to do any project where you integrate some kind of payment system, I really recommend you to go for the Stripe. They have the easiest setup. You need to a little bit understand how the API works, but in general, Stripe is the best one, just the best one. And this is their whole business. They used to have on the website was written something like payment structure of the internet. Basically, any internet business is using Stripe, so it's the best one. Okay, so we have the payment system. Now going back to John. John wanna buy something. John is actually gonna use a link from Stripe, right? So we need to have a way to communicate with John and to get the payment link from Stripe at the same time, right? And all of this happens through Salesforce, right? Because John is as a contact in Salesforce, for example, or as an account in Salesforce. So now we need to have a way to go and ask this payment system to generate a payment link for John. And then the payment system is going to give back as the link. Here's your link, www.pay.com, whatever, John, right? Then we're going to take this link, and we're going to send it to John. And then John is going to pay. Let me take another color. John is going to pay using this link. And after it's paid, there's some automatic thing that's going to happen that's going to notify Salesforce that the payment was completed. Okay? So you can see how much stuff is going on there. And you can see how majority of the things is happening outside of Salesforce. You can see this is Salesforce. we have a connection here, connection here, connection here, and connection here. But majority of the stuff that is happening is outside of the Salesforce circle. So this is why the integrations are special, because integrations, they literally integrate all the other systems. Okay. Now, this thing that notifies automatically, it's called webhook. Webhook. This is an important concept that we will not cover today unless you ask about it. But this is an important concept that is essentially half of the internet works in this way. Okay. So once it's completed, we're gonna make some notification and we're gonna activate learnapex.com for John. This is literally the way it works if you buy from my course, right? So if you go to the Learn Apex, let me show you. Learn Apex, right? If you go and actually buy here, this is actually approximately what's gonna happen with the different servers, not with the Salesforce, because I'm not using Salesforce, but it's approximately the same approach. And the way we've been designing this thing is that I designed this whole architecture for Learn Apex and for my business is because I knew how to design all of this for Salesforce. So another benefit of integrations is that once you understand how to do integrations in Salesforce, essentially it doesn't really matter, is it Salesforce or anything else? I can take it out, this whole Salesforce thing, and the architecture what we have here is going to work in the exactly same way. So this is what's so fascinating about these integrations, that once you can do them for any other businesses. It doesn't have to be Salesforce, okay? So I really recommend, if you really want to get a little bit deeper into it, then we have integration. We have integration architect certification, right? So if you want to go into this is a kind of a cool certification to study, and it's also not that hard of a certification to pass. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is that we're just gonna look at those two, how to request something and how to get a response. Okay, only those two parts. This is what we're gonna focus today. But then, of course, if you have any questions, shoot them right now, and we can discuss them at any point. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write here. Here we go. It's gonna be Salesforce, and then we're gonna have another server. Okay. And I'm gonna use a little bit of analogies here in this case. You're already probably familiar with those analogies if you followed server, if you follow the course. Server. Okay, before we go into all of this, by the way, actually, I have a cohort coming up on all of this, right? So we're gonna discuss every single piece of integrations in the cohort. It's out next month. Next week. Next week. So if you wanna take a part in this cohort, then there is a wait list for the cohort, and I'm gonna send it right now in the chat. And you can join the waitlist if that's something for you, if this whole integration topic is interesting. But first, before you do that, I recommend you to follow this live stream, just to kind of get a feeling of how I teach, right? So this is literally how I teach in the cohorts. This is how I do it. For those people who took my cohorts, George, are you still here? You can write a few words about the cohort. It's very similar to how I do the cohorts. You were part of my cohort. Does one have to be a developer or know a lot of programming before they can do Salesforce integrations? This is a great question, actually. I love the question, by the way. This is a really good question. So there are some topics that are important. So basically, if we take, let's see. So you need to know stuff like, for example, classes and methods, right? Yeah, thank you. Great experience. I did the LWC cohort. Thank you. Okay, so you need to know classes and methods, and you need to know maps. Okay, so those are important things and you need to know them pretty well. So if I tell to you, for example, can you instantiate a variable of a certain class and call a method? That should be absolutely of no problem for you. If that's a no problem, like if you can just do it in your sleep, you're good to go. If you struggle with those basic concepts, you should not learn integrations. Okay, you should go back to those concepts. You can go to Learn Apex, is a great place to start, the best place to start, and then do it there. Okay, so you do need to have the basic understanding, but you don't have to be like, you don't need to know cubables, you don't need to know batch, you don't need to know LWC, you don't need to know all of that. Okay, but you need to have basic understanding. If you don't have it, you're gonna have very hard times with integrations. Okay, still doesn't mean you can't do it, right? It's just gonna be very hard. I don't really recommend you doing that. Like, it's a little bit counterproductive. I would rather you spend time on doing the basics and then do the integrations rather than other way around. Yeah. Okay. So we have our Salesforce, right? Salesforce. Now we have request and we have response. This is what we call them. Response and request. Now, what a lot of people ask me is like, what happens here? Request from where and response, how do we get the response? Right? When you think about these two different servers communicating between each other, how does it actually look like? The thing is that those are two programs communicating with each other, which means that the way it's going to look like is literally just a bunch of code speaking to each other. So it's not really visual. You can't really see it that much. It's always going to be just a bunch of code that makes the request and a bunch of code that gets the reply. That's it. Okay. So it's not like with the flow where you can just like nicely see some elements. Here, it's just going to be code and code on those parts. Okay. So we have request, we have response, and we have the thing that should actually deliver that on the internet. Like physically, when you send something physically through the internet, there should be Flora. Yes, Flora. Sorry if I got your name not correctly. Sorry, Flora. I remember you, of course. You were the best student. You're the best student in the LWC cohort. Like in cohorts, we have like sometimes I run competitions where people get points for solving tasks, and Flora was like always always in top 3. Okay, I don't remember if you finished first or second, but you had a good run for sure. So very well done. Very good. This thing is called HTTP here, that sense. Okay, so imagine you have a grandma. You have a grandma. This grandma. Or grandpa. Okay, so you have, yeah, it looks more like grandpa. Okay, so you have grandpa. And you're asking grandpa, hey, can you give me socks for winter? Because it's really cold here. Like in Munich, it gets so cold and it gets really cold. So you're asking for socks. Hey, grandpa, can I have socks? And because your grandpa is really not into this whole digital age, what you need to do is to send a physical letter, like this letter, right? So you send this physical letter to the grandpa and you ask for socks. And your grandpa immediately sends you a letter. And he says, yes, of course. Yes, I'm going to give you socks. Give me a little bit of time. And then he sends you immediately with those socks. Maybe he immediately sends you in this package, he sends you socks immediately. Okay? So he sends you immediately socks. So the mailman, this needs to be someone who's going to deliver this, right? It's going to be the mailman. This mailman is the HTTP. This thing. So the HTTP is the actual thing that takes something from Salesforce server and delivers it to another server. The same way as the mailman takes your letter and actually delivers it to your grandpa. It's probably a bit more complicated in real life, right? You don't have actual mailmen going, like you have like whole logistics around it, but that's approximation. Okay, so you have this mailman actually taking the letter and delivering to your grandpa, and then the grandpa sends you the socks back, and this is also the mailman takes those socks and delivers it to you. Okay, this is exactly what's happening with the Salesforce requests and replies. Okay, you're requesting socks and you're getting socks as the reply. And the HTTP is the thing that delivers it in between. And we call it HTTP request and HTTP response. Very simple. And obviously this HTTP has some kind of decoding. Let's see, it's very boring. Like, it's very boring. So you can see hyper, let's do it in English, not in German. Still shows for me for some reason in German. Hypertext transfer protocol. No one cares what the hell is that. I studied computer science. I have no idea what it is as well. Okay. Now you can notice something interesting. If I type HTTP in my browser, you can see that I get a bunch of different recommendations of URL that actually has HTTP in the beginning. So if I go to LinkedIn, for example, right, let's go to LinkedIn. You can see here, it's going to be this URL. So if we go to the URL, we can see something. It has here this HTTP part. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, make it bigger. It's very, very tiny, this thing. Okay. It has HTTP here inside. My drawing skills. Okay, so this is HTTP. Isn't it crazy? Why do we have HTTP there? And what the hell are those things here, right? So S stands for secure. So S is secure, okay? And HTTP is what we discussed, it's the delivery. So basically what it means is that to access the www.linkedin.com, I'm using the HTTP protocol. So I'm, from my computer, I'm requesting to display the website from the LinkedIn server. So that's how it works. So anytime you go to any website, you're actually requesting to display this website in your browser. That's how it works. That's why we have HTTP there. And then we have the main what we call URL. Yeah. And then we have the additional path. Okay. So this is the way just all the websites they look like this. Any questions so far? How's it going? If it's good so far, write plus in the chat. If it's bad, write minus, of course. But then if you write minus, write Y. Okay, so we have those mailmans, we have those so far. Dan, welcome too. Nice to see you. Okay, so we have those whole HTTP things, right? Now, because when you speak to your grandpa, right, or grandma, you wouldn't probably write it in Apex, right? You wouldn't like write like system.debug, hey grandpa, can you, you would use the language that your grandpa can understand, right? You also wouldn't write to your grandpa in Chinese, because then the grandpa just gonna think, what the hell is that? Like, why are you writing to me in Chinese? So you have a certain format that you have to send the letter in, right? Also, the actual physical letters here in Germany, they're pretty regulated. As everything in Germany, you have to put it in a certain way so it can be sent. So the formats that you send to your grandpa and get something back, it follows the certain format. And the HTTP requests and responses, they also all follow the same format. That is in order to kind of ensure that two different servers on the internet, they can understand each other, okay? This is for that purpose. Because if you just have like a random format that no one can use, then of course the servers wouldn't be able to communicate with each other because no one knows how to talk to a server. So when you create, so if you have a format, you know how it should look like from your side. So when you're creating your server, you immediately know how to create it. Okay. So let's go and have a look at this format. Okay. So the format is like this. Wait, where's the? Yeah. Just looking at my documentation, so and my notes, so I don't tell you strange things. Here's the format. Okay, it's very easy actually. We can cover it pretty fast. Like it's super easy. But trust me, we do all of this so you can understand it before we actually go and write some code. Because once you understand this, it's going to be relatively easy. Okay, so any request that you make should have headers. Headers should have endpoint. Eventually it should have body, but not necessary. It is not required to have body. Okay. What else? Did I miss anything? Endpoint, headers, and also type. Okay. So let me explain all of them in detail. First of all, the endpoint. This is what we just saw. This is the address. So for LinkedIn, that would be this URL. Okay. For anything else, we're gonna see. I'm gonna give you a few examples. So for example, Stripe API. Let's have a look at the API docs of Stripe, right? So if I'm gonna go here and have a look at, here, base URL. This will be the address of the Stripe API. Okay, so this is how you would use this address to speak to Stripe. You can see it also has this whole HTTP thing. It has api.stripe.com. So it's not stripe.com, it's api.stripe.com. So it's kind of like subset of Stripe. Yeah. So this is the endpoint. This is the endpoint. So for example, HTTPS stripe.com API stripe.com. Blah blah. I'm not gonna write it down. Write it the whole one. But you get it. This is basically the URL. Usually we just shorten it out as URL. That's usually what we mean. Okay. Then headers. This is additional information that kind of signals what exactly are you sending. Are you sending text, images, code, right? You can even send like zip, right? You can even send videos, right? So you can send crazy stuff through APIs. It just depends what kind of API do you have, right? Another API that I really love, I think it's really great, is OpenAI. OpenAI API. Let's see if they will allow me to go there though, because they always say that I need to log in there. And let's see. Okay, they allowed me. They allowed me. Okay, right? So you can see that here, this API, it also has this api.com. Okay. So we have different things. And you can see that here we have different APIs. So we have text generation, we have images, we have audios, right? So it just depends what kind of API do you want to use. And depending of that, we're going to have different URLs. We're going to have different URLs. We're going to have different headers. And we're also going to have different type. Okay. Now let's speak about the type. There are many types. The most popular one are post and get. If you focus only on those two, you will learn probably 90% you need to know about integrations, okay? Or you will be able to do 90% of integrations. Just those two, and you can do almost any integration, okay? So there's not so much point in learning all the others. I would recommend don't learn anything else unless you already learned those post and get and you understand how they work. Post, it means that you send data. Get means that you're requesting a data. Request data. Okay? So those are the difference. Post, you usually use post for sending, like, for example, I have a new customer and I want to add information about this customer to the server. That would be post. If I have the email of the customer and I want to read information about this customer, that would be get. So two different types. There are also all the other types like delete, patch, and all of that. Not interesting for us right now. And now, depending on what kind of type you have here, you might have or not have the body. For example, if I'm only requesting the information about the customer and I know the email of the customer, I don't need the body. Okay? But if I'm posting a lot of information, then I do need the body. So post comes with a body. Get doesn't have the body usually. Or never actually. Actually never has any body. What do you say, fast? What do you mean fast? I need to drink water. Crazy. Takes a lot of effort to speak. If you have any questions or if you want to steer it in some other direction, then ask me those things. Fast API. What is Fast API? I have no idea what's Fast API. Okay. I have no idea what's Fast API. It looks like it's some kind of framework for Python. So I'm not sure. Okay, so Flora, you have a really good question. So that is for the REST. Yeah, so REST. For whatever reason, people put REST as if it's something like fancy, but REST is like 99%, 99.9% of all APIs out there. Okay? So REST is basically means that in the post request, you need to use JSON. Okay? I'm going to explain what is a JSON in a second. But if you know what is a JSON, then REST, it just means that you need to use JSON for this API. And this is, and we explain, like we discussed how it looks like, right? And this is like majority of integrations, majority of APIs and servers. There's literally no point in right now in developing SOAP integrations. So we have SOAP. So SOAP, I don't even know what it stands for. So all those abbreviations, they're so made up. Just everyone calls it SOAP, SOAP, and the rest. So SOAP, absolutely, there's no sense in basically covering it. In my 6 years as a Salesforce developer, I had one project with the SOAP integrations. Okay, and integrations were my whole life. Integrations was basically my how do you say it in English, my specialization, right? I was not just a Salesforce developer, I was specializing in integrations. I was known as the guy who does a lot of integrations, and I love them. And I've done at least 20 different integration projects, and SOAP I had once, maybe. Okay, so SOAP, unless you're using some kind of, so SOAP is the thing that would use XML. XML instead of JSON. And I really don't know what would be the reason to work with the SOAP. So usually you have SOAP like in banks. You have in banks in like some real old systems. Okay. So if that's one of those, then yeah, this is only where the SOAP is used. So that's basically that's about SOAP. So I don't even there's not even point to learn SOAP. Security, kind of yes, but kind of no. I know this is also what I said in the course, but when I think about this, REST is actually covering like 99% of the security. Like if you have something that cannot be done with the REST, with the HTTPS, I don't know, it's just strange, like it's just not your everyday usage. As I said, it's like banks, maybe some crypto stuff. I don't know, like this is something like weird, like military, like those type of things. They should be using SOAP. But rather than that, if you're just a normal business, even Stripe, which is a payment system, which supposed to have a lot of security, which they have, they're using REST, they're using JSON. So it says something, right? So yeah, SOAP, no point. Forget about SOAP. This is also what I recommend people who start with the coding, with the Salesforce development, is that you need to focus. You have like limited amount of time, and you need to focus your time on the most important things. So SOAP, forget about SOAP. Focus on REST, and then learn SOAP and all of this type of stuff when you already have an idea. Then says it's simple object access protocol. Yeah, quite meaningless actually. What is a REST protocol? REST, application programming interface. RESTful. Yeah, I mean, doesn't highly strict and secure way to build APIs that encode data in XML. Yeah. So XML also a pain to work with in comparison to JSON. So yeah, everything about SOAP sucks. I had one project with SOAP and I hated it. And it was outdated. It was old system. It would be interesting if it was some kind of like very secure thing, because it gives you like like an edge. Oh, I'm working on a like super secure thing. I cannot tell what it is because it's so secure. But no, unfortunately, it was not that project. So yeah, this SOAP doesn't really make any sense. Stick to REST. Okay, and any examples of use of headers? Let me show you an actual request, and then we're going to speak about response. I want to teach you also, guys, about Postman right now, because I literally had like before I started this live stream, like an hour before, I had a call with one of my students, and we discussed Postman. Okay, so Postman, they say the world's leading API platform. Will you cover platform events in integration cohort? I actually might. I think it would be it will definitely not be like a core topic that we would cover, but I might. But what about platform events do you wanna see? Because it is not like strictly integration topic, I would say. Platform events are pretty. I mean, it does have something to do with integrations. You're right. You're right. Probably we should cover it. Actually, it's a good point. I didn't plan it for now to cover it. So we have here Postman. It's very easy. You just log in, right? And then you write here new request. And basically what this Postman allows you is, no, I want to be in the browser. I don't want to open the app. What it allows you to do is it allows you to basically make those requests and replies. Nowadays, in many orgs, they use platform events and ask in many interviews. Yeah, platform events are actually pretty cool. Like platform events, I think I think we should cover them. I should cover them. I think it's time for me to cover them in the integration cohort. I think it would be a great topic. So yeah, I will cover them. This is my promise to anyone who's gonna take the integration cohort. I'm gonna cover it. Um, yeah, so here you can write the very quick requests and replies. So let me go and find an example that I'm going to show you. Da, 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 da. Okay. Here we go. So this is the URL. I'm going to send it in the chat so you can also check it out. You can literally click on it and you will see that it's actually working actual URL. So this is the URL that I created, just very quick server. Basically what it does is that it sends you this JSON back, and we will cover what the hell is JSON, right? So don't worry if you don't understand what's going on here. So we will cover all of that. But the point is that it just gives you this payload back. So what we can do from here is that we can put here the URL that we want to call, and we can click on send. And we're gonna get back some JSON. I'm gonna explain you in a second. But you can see that there are a bunch of different things here. Some of them are headers. And this is a good example of headers. Because someone asked in the chat, can you show me headers? Here are the headers. You can see they're kind of strange, like cache control, no cache. Connection, keep alive. So see here, basically what we are saying is that make the connection between Postman and the server and keep it alive. Don't kill it immediately. So it's this kind of information. You see, it's not very interesting, right? This information. But you can also add here in the headers, you can add it yourself, right? You can add it yourself. You can add different headers. You can see there are different things like content type, for example. So if you want to send something strange, like something like PDF, for example, you would say application PDF. So this is what I said about headers, right? So in headers, we are putting some additional information to our request. What exactly do we want to send? And here in Postman, then you would put what kind of request do you want to have? Get, post, and then you can see there are others. Put, patch, delete, head, and options. I've never used them. I have no idea what are they. But the other, like put, patch, and delete, sometimes you do use them. Then you can also attach a body. Now remember, I told you that if we have a get request, we don't have a body. If we have post, we have body. Okay. Let's see, what did I miss? Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? I have okay. Yeah. Now this was about the request. I think that's pretty much it about the request. It was just the request. Just the request. Okay. Now we need to go about the response. Response is going to be way easier because response is essentially the same as request. Okay, so this is a response. It has headers, which we already know about. It doesn't have the endpoint because it just responds to your request that you have sent. It has body, and it has status code. Status code. Okay. It also has like a bunch of additional information on top of it, but this is the most important. So headers, we already know that headers we covered, they are exactly the same way, right? So if we go here, I'm gonna go here to the response, and you can see headers, and we have those headers that in most cases you will actually never have a look at those cases, right? For example, what the hell is this? Envoy upstream service time 166. Does it tell me anything? No. We don't care about headers in most cases, so don't worry about them. We have the body. Here's the body. Here's the body. This is the body of the response. Now with the response, the situation is different, right? Because with the request, sometimes we have the body and sometimes we don't. But with the response, almost always let's say always, let's just say always, you do have the body because there needs to be some kind of communication, okay? And then with the status code, it's pretty easy. With the status code, let me add it here. With the status codes, they're separated into 3 different categories. The OK category, so basically when you have sent something and it's okay. Then the 400 category, so like 400, 401, you definitely know 404, which means it does not exist, right? Not found. That means this is a you problem. It means that you who are writing this request, who are doing this request, messed up something. So you called the right API, but you messed up something. You forgot a token, you didn't have the right authorization thing, you requested a website that does not exist or a path that does not exist, okay? And the 500, it means it's the server problem. Okay? So 500, it means that something on the server side is wrong. Well, sometimes it also means that you just did a request in the way that basically broke the server. So an example for this would be if a server actually like shuts down. So if you make some kind of request that makes the server melt down and shut down, that would be 500, right? And you get this immediately as a response. This is kind of a quick way to communicate with, to say, okay, it was good, it was bad. So it's a quick way for the server to give you a response. What happened? Was it good? Was it bad? Or was it not? Samir says, love the way you explain. Thank you. Once the integration cohort course is completed, how many years of overall experience would that person be considered equivalent to? Well, guys, no cohort can give you actual experience. I can teach you everything I know about integrations. You're still going to have to go and do the integrations. You're still going to have to go and write a lot of code. Like, none of the integrations or courses that you will ever find will actually teach you and make you like a senior developer. Imagine a senior developer that just took a bunch of cohorts. Impossible. To become a senior, you need to actually be doing a bunch of projects, okay? So don't think about my cohorts in that way. The best way to think about the cohorts is just speeding up your learning, because you can go and you can jump from one website to another website and just spend years learning integrations. This is what it was for me. I spent 3 weeks trying to find information. I spent just hours and hours in the night after my job trying to understand how those integrations work. And you can just speed up all of that by just like going to the integration. I'm going to show you everything you need. Okay. So that's how you should think about this, as a speed run. Okay. As a way to compress in 8 weeks what you would need to spend a year of studying. How many projects will there be to practice? Well, more there are going to be a lot of projects. Don't worry. So like, the thing about my cohorts is that we're basically only doing projects most of the time, right? Sometimes I give you like different tasks, but we're doing mostly projects. I'm a big fan that if you're a junior, you need practice for basics, okay? If you're more advanced, if you're like a senior, or like you want to become a senior, or you're done with the basics, you need to do projects. You don't need that much practice anymore, but you need to do a lot of projects. So this is what I'm focusing in my cohorts on, projects. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue with the integrations. Okay, so we have those status codes. Now, the last thing that we need to kind of speak about is the body. So basically, the payload. Sometimes you hear, so it's called body, and people also say payload. It doesn't have anything to do with the payment system. It is just a way to say, like, for me, English is not my first language. So for me, it was like strange when I heard about payload. I was like, someone paying for something? But no, payload just means a body. Okay. And as we discussed so far, payload is in a JSON format. JSON. Now, JSON is really cool. I love JSON. Okay, so let's discuss JSON. I think there are many different ways to pronounce JSON, but essentially, JSON is very simple. It's a map. It's exactly the same concepts as a map. Who here, who knows how maps work? Write plus if you're familiar with how maps work in Apex. Write plus, and minus if you don't know. It would be interesting for me to see. So I can see if you know how maps work. Plus. I see plus, I see plus. If you don't know, then write minus. It's also good. There's nothing bad in it. Samir says plus, WBR says plus minus. Okay. So this is why I tell that basically maps are, Dan, Dan, you know how it works. Good. Dan says plus plus. This is why I say that it's important that you have basics of, wrap up and reflect. No, thank you. That it's important that you have the basics before you start with integrations. Okay, so you do need to know maps. And since you know, guys, it's really good, right? So essentially, map, very easy. Map is a table, right? With a key and value. Very simple, key and value. Value. So for example, oh my God, Taylor Swift, right? Key and value. Now, JSON is exactly the same thing, but it is written a little bit differently. To create a JSON, you need to open this curly bracket and you need to close it. Everything that is inside is going to be a JSON. And then you have keys and values as well. So the only difference is that you have key with those double quotes, and then you have a value with a double quote as well. Let me take another color. Not necessarily, okay. This is not necessarily double quote value, like this. So this whole construct, this is JSON. Okay. Now the key is always going to be of one type. It's going to be string. And the value can be multiple different types. It can be string, number, array, null. What else? String, number, array, null, object. I forgot one. Let me have a look in my. Who knows what's the other one? What's the last one? Who remembers what's the last one? Who remembers? Who can remember here? Write in the chat. Decimal. Okay. What are other ideas? Don't cheat, guys. Don't look it up. Just write in the chat. What do you think? What's the other one? What are the ideas? We have decimal. What else? We have decimal. Any other idea? Integers. Integers. Decimals. Boolean. Yes, Servana. You win the. I don't know. You win the applause. So the other one is Boolean. Boolean. Those are good guesses, decimals and integers, because those are the types in Apex, right? So you know them basically. Eric also says Boolean. Okay, very good. So this is a good guess. That's a good guess. Because those are types in Apex. But JSON is a short for JavaScript object notation. You can see JavaScript object notation, JSON, right? So the types that are in the JSON are JavaScript types, and JavaScript types are different from Apex types. Oh, Simir says lists. This is also a good idea. This is really good point. lists, right? So lists is the same thing as an array. Okay, it's the same thing. And decimal and integers, they're included in this number definition. So basically, the number, it includes the integers and the decimals, because in JavaScript there's no differentiation between those types. Which, if you think about this, for me personally, it makes more sense. Because who just came up with the idea that you will separate numbers based on the decimal point, that they have a decimal point? So what? Does it mean that it's supposed to be another type? No, I don't know. It's strange. For me, decimal and integers are both both numbers, right? So it kind of makes sense that in JavaScript they're also numbers. Okay, but very good guess. Very good guess, guys. I like it. The one that we forgot was a Boolean, right? Okay, so null, very easy. That means there's nothing. String, it means text, the same as in Apex, right? Object, it means JSON object. This is probably one of the most interesting types in JSON, which means that as the value, you can have here another JSON object. So you can have key and then value be another JSON, and inside of the JSON, you can have another JSON and another JSON. And like this, you can have a lot of JSON inside of JSON. And Boolean, it just means true or false, same as in Apex. Yeah. So this is JSON. Now I want to show you actual good example for JSON. I have it. Right here. No. It's not very good. Let me do it like this. Like this. So you see this way of writing JSON. This is if you just write it as a whole, like as a whole line, which is usually not the way we are writing JSON. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this. Usually the way you kind of visualize JSON is this way. So you're kind of making it like this with a key and value. So we can clearly see what's going on there, right? So you can clearly see that this is a key and this is a value. Wait, I had somewhere a better example. Yeah, this one. This is a way better example. Here we go. So a better example. Yeah, perfect. This is really good example. I don't remember where I found it. It's definitely not my example. I definitely took it from some website. I hope they don't mind. So here we see the example of a JSON that contains all possible value types that you can imagine. So we have here string, string. Number, you see we don't have the double quotes there. That means it's a number. You could also put just 2 there. That would be the same. Boolean, true, null is null. And then we have an object, which means that there's the same thing is going on. Yeah. Then we have array, which is the same thing as list in Apex. And you can see the difference is that in Apex, the lists, they can only contain the same type, right? You're writing something like list of strings. It means you cannot put in the list of strings, you cannot put accounts. But here, no, here it's different. You have here a list with a string, with a number, with a Boolean, with a null, and with the object. So you have literally all the possible types inside. That's just a reminder. What I'm trying to say with all of this is that JSON doesn't follow Apex structure. It's a different structure. And that's the reason why JSON is so popular. This is a very simple structure. It cannot even follow the Apex structure because JSON is not made for Salesforce. It's not made for Google or for any other system or for HubSpot. JSON is made basically to be this universal language between different servers. So it has to be simple and kind of easy to understand. And the most important, that it should be easy to translate from JSON to whatever language your platform understands. In our case, Apex. So in our case, what we need to do is to take this JSON and parse it into Apex, or parse it into something that Apex understands. Okay, and this process of taking this format that is a JSON and making it into something that Salesforce understands. In our cases, not so much Apex, but a proper way to say would be objects. This process, it's called parsing. Parse. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. It's not a big deal, but this is the parsing. Okay, I reached the 50% of my target. Yeah, this is my really favorite productivity tool, which is a little bit annoying when I share my screen. Then you can see all those notifications. Okay, any questions so far until this point? You are doing great. If you've been following so far for so long, for almost 1 hour already, you're doing great. You are doing great. So congrats. Okay. So one of my favorite ways actually to work with the JSON is JSON crack. Like this. If you have some JSON, what you can do is that, let me go here. You can take this JSON and you can paste it here, and then it's going to visualize for you what's going on there. Yeah. And now we can also go back to this thing that I showed you. Now you can see that this is a JSON. Okay. So we're going to use this thing to basically make the call out. And here we have a payment link. We have this payment link here. This is what we are trying to get for John. Okay. So I'm going to take this thing. I'm going to paste it in here. And you can see the structure of this JSON that we have. You can see that we have the main object, right? So let me make it a little bit bigger. So we have this main object here. This is the main object. Then inside, we have another object called payer. Then we have pay. Then we have transaction, right? So different objects. For the payer transaction, we can open this object and we can see that there's a link inside. So this is what we're going to need to get, right? And you can also obviously see it here. Okay. And this whole JSON, like the structure object inside the object, it all goes from this thing that we can have an object as the value. And it's a very powerful concept. That's why I'm putting so much emphasis on it. It's very important to keep it in mind. But eventually, this is very easy. JSON is a map that can contain another map, as someone said in the chat. Does the data type in JSON help us with parsing through Apex code? Yeah, it helps. It helps. So it's called. I mean, it helps. It helps for you to understand. Everything helps you to understand. Everything that we are discussing now is for us in order to just write one request and get the response and parse it. Okay, so this whole setup of knowledge is basically for us to do just one request. It's called JSON crack. So for someone who wanna go and use this tool. Okay. So we have this JSON. Let's see. I think that's it about JSON. Yeah. So XML, actually, a few words about XML. XML is kind of like a JSON, but it's using tags like HTML tags, not HTML tags, but similar to that instead of brackets and keys and values. So it's similar in the nature. Everything you can do with the JSON, you can do also with the XML, just a little bit harder. Okay. Do you want to make actual request? Write plus in the chat if you want to make a request. If you want to make the request. Or do you have any other things about the theory that is not clear? Or should we go? Write plus if you want to go and actually do some Apex code now. And then we can go do that. Or minus if you still want to have something else. Some drawings. Let's do it live. Let's do it live. Yes. Let's do it live. Yes. Naga says yes. Mehdi says yes. Eric. Nice. Okay. Oracle link. Not sure if that's the actual your name. Just probably YouTube handle. Okay, let's write some Apex code. When you make any request from Salesforce to any other system, the first thing you always need to do is to add it to the remote site settings. This is the first thing, always. Because Salesforce doesn't want you to basically go and do some weird requests to random websites, okay? So you need to go here to the remote site access, and you need to add here whenever you make a request. So if I'm going to click here, right, the API that I'm trying to access is this one, is this payment/link. I'm going to put it here. Now, you don't need to put all of that because this /payment/link is the additional path. It is not the main URL. So you always need to add only the URL, okay? So we're adding the URL here, and I'm not going to do it because I already done it, but there's nothing crazy about this. You just basically, you just add it and then you click on save and that's it. Okay, so now developer console. I'm going to make it from developer console again so that we don't really go complicated with all the VS Code. You can use VS Code if you want, right? Now, if you look at this whole, where's our first one? Yeah. We have HTTP request, HTTP response, and HTTP. Three things that we have. Let's Google it. HTTP request Apex. You will see that, oh, how convenient. We have an actual HTTP request class. Now, I assume that you know what the hell is class, okay? So you need to know what it is. This is not beginner stuff, okay? So you need to know what it is. But we have this HTTP request class. So Salesforce for us went and wrote HTTP request class. So we don't need to write like a bunch of low-level code. We can just use whatever Salesforce is providing for us. And there are a bunch of different examples, but you can see the methods here. There are a lot of methods. I really recommend you to just go and read them. There's like get body, blah, blah, blah. We are interested into the set methods, not get, set. Like set body, set endpoint, okay? Because if you remember a few minutes ago, we were speaking about parts of the request that are important. Headers, endpoint, body, and the type. So let me write here. So we have headers, we have endpoint, we have body, and we have type, okay? In this case, we are just requesting this link here. So the type is going to be get, okay? The endpoint is going to be this endpoint. It's the endpoint. Body, we're going to have none because we're just requesting. Remember, get requests, they don't have the body. Only if we were to take something out of Salesforce and send it to this payment link, to this payment server, only then we would have the body. So for this case, we don't have. And headers, how convenient for us. They're done automatically by Salesforce, okay? So it's very easy for us to basically make this request. If you've been following this for like 1 hour and you try to understand all those things here, you can see how actually easy it is to do it in Apex once you understand the architecture. So let me show you. We take our HTTP class, HTTP request class, and we create a variable request. Now, best practices in Apex, you don't call it rec, right? If we look at Salesforce, we can see stuff that just makes my heart skip the bit. It just breaks my heart because in Salesforce documentation, Salesforce doesn't follow the basic best practices of Apex. And the best practice is like this: never abbreviate your variables so that the variables are readable. So don't abbreviate your variables like Salesforce does. So this is important, that you see the code in the documentation. It doesn't mean it's a good code, okay? So what we have here is request. Just write it completely, okay? Request equal new HTTP request, semicolon. Simple class and a variable, right? And now here we can start calling those methods that we saw here. Where are the methods? Methods, right? We can start setting the stuff. And we only need to set two things, remember? The endpoint and the type. So it's very easy. So request set endpoint, and we're putting there the endpoint as this whole thing. Now important here, you need to put it with the path, because you're actually speaking to the path, right? So the difference between here and the remote setting is that here you're asking what exactly are you going to be querying from the server. And in the remote setting, you're allowing the server to communicate with Salesforce. Different things, right? Okay. So then set, how's it set? Set method. Okay, so it's called method. Set method. Maybe it's worth for me to add. It's called sometimes, not sometimes. It's actually Salesforce calls it method. Method. I think method is kind of a little bit incorrect of like it's not, it doesn't convey completely the purpose of what's going on. It's rather a type of the request that you're making and not a method, because a method is kind of how you do the request, not what your request, what is the purpose, like what does your request die. So I would rather call it type rather than method, but eventually it doesn't really matter. So here, get. Important, not get like this or get like this, okay? Get capitalized, important. Otherwise, if you said something else, it might not work. You might run into issues. Yeah, the method as a naming convention is a bit confusing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of calling it method, to be honest. Like I would rather call it type, set type or something. Okay, so we said those two things, and that's all we need. Okay, now when we go back to this whole thing, HTTP request and response, you can see that we are making this request using HTTP, right? How convenient that we're going to be doing exactly the same in Salesforce. We're going to have HTTP variable equal new HTTP. Again, don't call it H. This is what I see so many cases, H. Just call it HTTP. Don't be lazy. This is just 3 more hitting on the keyboard, and it makes the code automatically way more readable. And yes, you can name your variable in exactly the same way as your class, because Apex understands that here's your class and here's your variable. Okay. And now we're going to use this HTTP to actually send the request. And we're going to catch the response into the HTTP response variable. Okay. Response equal to http.send request. When you look at this, it basically reads like plain English, right? So this is because first we have spent like an hour probably speaking about all these theoretical things, and because we have a good coding style, okay? So coding style is important. Work on that. If you want, I recommend you guys, actually, where is it? Some product placements here. This book. If you wanna understand very good how to do the code styling, that's the book. That's the book I recommend. It's really good. Let me put it back. Mehdi says, can you explain the response part again? What exactly is confusing? Can you put it more in the words, like what's the confusing part? on my desk right now. This is good. $11. Okay, so I assume you know how methods work. The name is Clean Code by Pablo Gonzalez. Okay. Let me send you to the chat. Where's Pablo? Also, follow Pablo if you're not following Pablo. Pablo is the man. He's writing really cool different things here. Where's the Pablo? Here, I'm gonna send you guys a link to his LinkedIn, and you can, after the stream, of course. Right now, focus. We still have some stuff to do. Okay, not so much though. We are almost done. So the left part is basically it's calling the method, right? So we have a variable HTTP. What is this variable? How do we get to this variable? Where is it? Okay, HTTP. So we have HTTP class Apex, HTTP class. So this class, it's not, no, that's not the documentation I wanted. Do they have documentation? Okay, so HTTP class is a class that allows you to actually send the request. And it's a very simple class that only has one method. It's called send. So this method send, it takes HTTP request as the variable inside of the method, and it sends it to the destination. So basically, you're setting up here, you're setting up the definition of your request. Where should it go? What kind of request is that, right? Then headers, maybe body, what should you send exactly? And then you take this HTTP class and you put this your variable inside of this HTTP class. And the HTTP class, it has own Salesforce thing, right? It has connection to the Salesforce inner working, and it takes your variable, HTTP request variable, it looks at it, it says, okay, this is the endpoint, I'm sending it there, I'm doing that, I'm sending it there, I'm sending this type of information, it's this type of request, and actually does the call out. So this is the thing that actually does it. So if we go back to our analogy with you're sending your letter to your grandma and getting the socks in response, the mailman is the HTTP. So this is the thing that actually gonna make the call out. And then it makes the call out and it returns inside of this send method. If you look at this, the definition of this method, the return type of this method is HTTP response. So it returns you the HTTP response. It makes the call out. The server does some kind of response to Salesforce, and it takes this response and it puts it into the return of this method. This is what it does. I think it was a pretty good explanation, actually. So this is what's happening. And now we can have response body. And so first of all, let's just display what are we getting. System.debug response. Okay. So I'm going to just see, okay, what is this response that we are actually getting here? Execute. Debug only. And we can see status okay, and the status code 200, what I showed you before, okay? Now, this is the response that doesn't have the body. To get the body, we need to use another method, string response body, and it's going to be response dot get body, like this. And now we can do system.debug response body, like this. Execute. Okay, right? So we can see that we are actually getting this JSON that we had here. We are now having it in Salesforce. So congrats, this is very good. We have it here. Now the only one thing that is left for us is to parse this thing, so we can actually get the link, right? This is what we are here for. We are here for the link. So you do not have to write HTTP response equal to response new. No, you don't need to write. Actually, this is a good point. If you have something like this, new HTTP response, and then you have the response like this. Let's see if that's still going to work. Yeah, so it still works, right? So you could write it in this way, where you have basically you create a response variable, and then you put the value inside. But it basically defeats the purpose, because in Apex you can create the variable and immediately put the method, call the method, right? It's just important that this method, it returns the right type that can be put in that variable. So you can kind of, you're creating here 2 lines where it could have been just 1 line. So you take this thing, and instead of creating a new variable, you're basically putting it here like this. Okay. Good question though. Really good question. I liked it. Yeah, so now we have the body. You can see it's all 1 line. Here's this body, right? It starts on the line 14. For those who don't know, this is the line, right? We can see that this is the line. So it was like this thing. So it's the line 14 where it was printed out, and it all stays just 1 line. So we need to parse it, because you can see that this is not the Apex format. You cannot just take this whole thing here and put it into Salesforce database. It's not going to work. Okay. What you need to do, you need to take it and make it into Salesforce format. Now, this is harder than it sounds. And I'm going to show you a couple of things here that are actually complicated. That's why in the cohort, like this is what we're discussing here, is basically like week 1 of the cohort out of 8 weeks. So the parsing is going to have like a separate week because, yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff there that's going on. So first of all, remember that I told you that JSON is basically a map. That's important, because now we can take this JSON and we can parse it into a map. How we do it is that we take, first of all, we have it as a string, right? It's just a string. Now we can create a map of string to object. Now, this is where I also say to you that this is not a beginner thing, because you need to know what the hell is object in Apex. Okay? If you don't know, go and learn what the hell is that. In the nutshell, object is the type that incorporates in itself all the other types. So basically, this is kind of the grandparent type for all the types. So basically, as an object can be anything. Anything in Apex is an object. A map, a list, a count, integer, string, everything is an object. So you can represent any type in Apex through an object. It's like an overtype, right? And exactly for this reason, we can parse the response into string to object, because the object can be anything. Okay. Hi, Igor, it's not working. Can we get recording for this? YouTube, go on YouTube. It's working on YouTube. Where's the share? Let me send you the link. Here, link. Go, everyone watch on YouTube. I would really appreciate if you watched on YouTube. YouTube loves it. Okay. So with the object, we can represent anything. We can represent a list, a map, a string. And this is exactly what we want, because we know that the value, right? So we have here a string. That's going to be a key. This is easy, because we know that in JSON, the key is always a string. But the value in JSON can be anything, right? It can be a list, it can be array, it can be number, as we discussed before. So we need to parse it into string to object. Okay. Now, the way we do it, also, I don't usually remember it in my head. I have to Google how to do it all the time. So it's normal if you cannot remember it, like no one can. So response as a map equal to, and now here we have a new method. Let me Google this method to show you. JSON deserialize untyped, like this. Okay. Where's this JSON? So we have another class which is very useful, and it has a bunch of different methods. Out of those methods, we only actually need like maybe 3. We have deserialize, and we have deserialize untyped. Deserialize you would use if you have a specific type that you want to deserialize in. This is a topic for probably another day. As I said, this whole parsing thing is going to be like a separate week in the cohort. Deserialize untyped, this is when we are just working with the maps, when we want to use the map to basically deserialize this whole thing. So I'm going to go here to the deserialize untyped, and you see what does it return? It returns an object. Okay, because it knows that the object is the main is basically a type that can represent anything in Apex. So it returns an object. Here we go. Yash, if you have an issue loading the event, go to my YouTube channel. Okay. So how do we do it? Okay, I got lost reading the comments. So JSON dot deserialize untyped, right? And then we're putting here the response body to make it a bit bigger so you can read all of that. Response body here. Okay. Oh my god, this is, yeah, like this. Okay, response body. Now we have the string to the object. Now we can get string pair. Right? Sorry, not string pair. We can use this map to get the pair object out of it, right? So remember how we had it here? Where's the JSON crack? Here, right? Now we can get this pair, which is in itself is a JSON as well. So we do the same trick again. We basically say, okay, it's going to be map string object and pair equal to JSON deserialize untyped. I'm just going to copy this thing here. Just JSON deserialize untyped. And I'm going to put here. Oh, sorry, I don't actually need to do that. Sorry, I didn't forget. You don't need to do that because this thing here, you can already parse it from response map.get pair. Like this, okay? Now, one thing that is still missing to do the proper parsing is to parse the type here, because the return type out of those things, this is always going to be an object. So we need to say to Apex, no, this is not an object. This is actually a map. If you have no idea what it is parsing and casting, okay? So look it up. Or maybe I should do a video about this whole parsing thing. I don't know. If you guys want to have it, then write it. Write it in the chat and I can maybe do the video on it. Okay, so we have this pair. Now we have the pair object. And now, since we have the pair object, now finally we can actually get the link. So we can say string payment link equal to, and we're gonna parse it into a string, and we say pair.get link. Okay, and now here we're gonna do system.debug payment link. Payment link. Okay, payment link here. Here we go, like this. Okay, I'm gonna remove this. So we have the whole code here in one page. And I'm gonna click on execute. And let's see if we can isolate just the link. And here we go. We have just the link itself. So I'm gonna send it to you guys, the request. So it's separated into three into 3 different messages. Wait, can I send it to you here? Nah, it's just too big for YouTube to process, but you can read it hopefully. Okay, what do you say here? Yes, make a video, make a video. What is the difference between object and as object? Ooh, this is yeah, I think it's worth doing a separate video about it. Basically, object. So as object is anything that you can put into database in Salesforce. As object, okay? As object means Salesforce object. Doesn't mean standard object. Big misconception. As object means. Let me write down as object. Really great question. Love this question. As object, anything that you can put into database. Okay. Object, anything, including the as objects. So object, it kind of includes the as object. Any type in Apex is an object. Anything that you create in Apex is an object, because Apex is an object-oriented programming language. So literally every single thing, every variable that you create in Apex is an object. If you want to know what is an object, I have a video about that. So if you want to know what is an object, then watch that video. But the as object is anything that you can insert into the database. Account, contact, opportunity, all this type of things, okay? This is an as object. Hope that helps to clarify the difference between them. Any other questions? Pretty good question. I loved it. I just realized that I named the stream "Write Your First Apex Integration in 60 minutes," and we are like almost 2 hours into the stream. But I think it's one of the best ways. I don't know, what is it, evening for you or not evening, but I think Apex is one of the best ways to to spend your evenings. It's evening for me. Is everything clear, or there's still something that is not clear? If everything is clear, then write plus in the chat, and I can see that everything is clear then. But yeah, this is how you make your first request. Now, if you want to do it for like payment system, if you want to do it for something else, for any other server, then this is exactly what I'm gonna do in my cohort, right? The cohort starts, the enrollment starts next Monday. Okay, so this is gonna be a huge cohort. I put probably like 6 months. I've been working this cohort for the last like 7 months, 6-7 months. So I put a lot of effort into this. So if you want to learn everything else about integrations, like this, what we have done today, then go on the waitlist and see you in the cohort. And I would be really happy to see you there. Right? This literally like 10 times more about integrations than what we covered today. Okay, we're gonna do everything about integrations. What was the productivity tool from your notification? It was Rise. Where is it? It was Rise. It was this thing. I can send you a referral link. If someone wanna go there, go use my referral link. Like I really love this tool. Like I've been using it for probably like 3 years, and basically what it allows you is just to like start a timer and track how much you actually work. Very insightful. Like once you actually track how much you work, you realize that you actually don't work that much. You realize that the productive hours that you work is probably like, I don't know, 4 hours, 5 hours a day, even though it feels like you're working like 10 and 12. So it's very insightful thing. Changed a lot how I approach working. So yeah, if you want to learn more about those integrations, then join the cohort. We're going to be creating projects. I'm going to be coding with you. You're going to write your own integrations with real payment systems. We're going to be discussing stuff like polling, webhooks. We're going to be discussing how you can actually make this integration work. And we're actually going to implement not one, not two, we're going to implement 8 different integrations during this cohort that all look like this. Okay, we're going to learn all the architecture and all of this type of things. And by the end, you're going to know everything about integrations. And there's literally going to be nothing about integrations that you cannot do. And you will be able to do any integration you want. And that's going to allow you to earn a little bit more money, to go freelance on the side, right? And just in general, save you like probably months and months and months of working, right? So I'm going to just shortcut this path for you. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for the engagement. Thank you so much. I was very happy to see everyone. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good evening.